Hi, I'm Coach Nate. I'm a Master Support main. Today we're looking at some Baptiste gameplay.
No,
Alright, so for here you want to transition with your Reinhardt. This other shield will not last long, and you want to be able to make sure that you move in with him. Because it takes more coordination for this team for your tanks to make sure you get through there, and you don't want to be depending on your tanks, like put a lot of trust in your tanks to help you transition through. Luckily, he helps out there though. For here, you can just walk through this Orisa shield because Orisa's pushing back, or they're starting to fall back. You're pressuring pretty good, and your tank and your other healer walk through. So that shield's no longer useful to them, so you don't have to worry about breaking it. Just walk through it. So nobody can use that, really. Okay, so for this part, this is one of those things that's a little bit easier to tell from watching the video as it plays through. But since I'm kind of cutting parts out to save you time, it'll be, I'll have to describe this. So you recognize that this is a mistake, first of all, meaning that you jump down and that you're immediately in front of the Junkrat. So you wish that, so as you explained, you wish that you were on high ground. But the thing is, you should recognize that the Junkrat was, when the Junkrat had been killed and that he's coming back. That's one thing you can be doing. And the second thing is, before you ever jump down here in the first place, take a look to the left for the respawn. So always, if you're ever coming back into the path of where the respawns are can be transitioning back to the battle, get that information or look back in the direction and make sure no one's coming if you do decide to go down there. Okay, so when you're playing with tanks, especially in lower elo, sometimes they have like a Reinhardt, especially might have the idea that they want to pin something, but they don't really plan out how they're going to pin it and where they're going to end up. So they'll just charge way too far. This is one thing that Baptiste is great for, because you can throw perhaps your invincibility field or barrier on this guy, your lamp on him right now. And I would be looking to help a tank that's not exactly gotten the ropes down for how they want to use their abilities to get aggressive without like putting themselves in a bad situation. So I would definitely try to use it here to save that Reinhardt, because your team could probably push in and help him. Like, it gives him a few seconds.
come back.
All right. So like he could probably be okay here, especially if your team pushed in. But if you lamped, right, he'd probably be alive.
Cool and all, but it's not doing anything for us.
All right. So for here, I think that you could have possibly killed this Mercy. So first thing is, if you're not being pressured and you're having trouble hitting your shots, stand still. You don't have to move forward. You could just stand still and shoot at her because she's a stationary target. She goes behind a shield, but that's your shield, and she's flying in a straight line. So instead of switching to the Junkrat, I would just continue to shoot her, because you might be able to kill her before she gets out, to be honest. Here your tanks are taking a bunch of damage, but I think you think about repositioning here so that you're a bit safer for a long-term fight, and maybe you recognize that at times it's easier to heal people if you're on high ground with Baptiste, just since you're able to shoot down on them. But as you're doing this, someone dies. So you weren't taking a bunch of damage there, and you kind of want people to be on point and alive as long as possible. So there, I think that repositioning was a bad choice, because you could have done something more valuable, which is heal this dude before he died. Okay, so for there, you're shooting at the shield so that you can heal the people on a point. But you put in an additional shot in after the shield's down, and this has to do with reaction time and recognizing when shields are about to break. You'll get better at this with time, but this is maybe this is nitpicky, but I feel like you might have been able to save that Reaper if you had shot that first healing orb. Here's another thing coming up. So your Myra is coalescing here, but you go for the Mega down below. Just walk in front of her.
Probably could have used my ult.
Alright, and the third thing is, before you use your ult take a look around and see who can be damaged by it, and if there's anybody your team can be shooting. And look at their general positioning, and try to figure out if you can set somebody up to use it. Because I mean, I guess you could heal some people here, but there's not really. I don't know. I don't think there's much value gained out of that. And then unfortunately you die to the Junkrat tire, which I mean you can't help that. But just think. So I guess the takeaway points here are recognize what's happening around you. So like you can, if your other healer can heal you, don't go grab a health pack because that's beneficial for you both. It lets you, and sometimes it lets you be effective on the front line longer and have more impact instead of breaking away from the team fight. And the second thing is take a general look around and observe what's going on in the battle before you use some of your ults and some of your other things, your abilities and making decisions. Now you have a Winston and a Sigma for your tanks. So what I'd be thinking about doing here is using your immortality field to help your Winston out when he dives in. We'll take a look at what happens here. So that dude's low on health. What you can be doing here is, so you throw the invincibility barrier field onto his position, maybe like against that back wall or something. You can also use your exo boots to jump over here onto the structure to the left, or to like basically to get into a position to be healing that Winston. Because I think he could have lived here, and you have a lot of chances to save him. Like you could even throw the barrier down here against, like, ricochet it off of this pillar or whatever. So he didn't need to die there. I think he had some options. There's a couple things I want to discuss here. The first is, this is a great position, this high ground position. The second is your Reaper's about to ult, and I like that you're going to put your invincibility field on him when he does it. I like that concept in general. I don't think in this situation, you actually had to do that, because we'll take a look. But I want you to remember that and to continue to do that. I mean, you had the idea, so you probably do it. But I'll point out that it's good. So that's good that you're putting it down, or you at least are thinking that way in general, I guess I'll say. Even though you don't need it right now. The other thing is, though, don't jump off of this high ground. And the reason being is that when Baptiste is on high ground, he can heal people from above, which makes it easier for him. Especially if you have people that are jumping up and down like this soldier is, and a lot of people tend to do anyways in the game. It's like a habitual thing. When you're shooting down on them, you can be a little bit more precise about exactly where you want to be. When you're on the same plane as them on this low ground, it's a little harder to hit the exact spot you want. And I don't know, even when if you're on high ground, even when you're shooting down at them, you have the possibility to directly hit their character a little bit easier than you do if they're jumping up and down. So that's what I wanted to say about this very moment, and then you do something in a moment, in the next moment, that I want to talk about. Right here. So this is not a safe position to be in. It's only safe if the enemy team decides not to come out in where you're standing. And you can't guess that they won't. If they do end up coming out your way, you could be killed immediately, depending on what character they are and their mechanical ability. And if you think about it, if they come out here, then you have less of an option to choose what you want to do, because they could be over here in your face and forcing you to focus them. Then you're in a battle that you have to focus on. You can't choose, hey, I want to heal my team in front of me while I shoot this person. That's not easy to do at that moment. You have to think, wow, I have to save my own bacon and maybe win this 1v1 duel, and perhaps use some of my resources on myself instead of on my team, etc., in order to pull this off. And if you're forcing yourself in those situations, you may lose a battle just because perhaps you need to be healing up front. You know what I mean? So what I'd recommend is, where we started out in the beginning of this little clip on the high ground, or this bridge over here, because that bridge provides you with a way to heal everybody. You can still do damage if you want, and you're not on the point. So, and you're also farther away from where the enemies are coming out, this side or the other side of the point. So they have to get to the point in order to win the video game. You have the rest of your team that are hopefully going to be in front of you. So the enemy is going to encounter those people first, and most likely focus those people first, and you're going to be the furthest away. So they to access you, they have to go through a lot more bodies, and maybe you can even break line of sight from them being able to see you if you want, while still healing your team. That bridge position is not the worst position to be throwing your field down, because you have line of sight of the entire point, and you can heal everybody. You have the most information, and if you want, you can even, if you hit Q twice, you can turn the way your ant matrix is facing. So you can even set it down in front of your team without being as visible if you need to be. All right, for this moment, I like that you're at least kind of setting yourself up to be doing a lot of damage on the point. And you got everybody in front of you so you can heal them. So that's cool. So I would put as much attention into doing damage here behind your matrix as possible. So either take down that shield or shoot the Lucio while using your matrix. I wouldn't put the invincibility barrier here if you could help it. I would put it behind line of sight. Break line of sight from anywhere on the point by putting it on the other side of this pillar. So here's this pillar that it forms the doorway on the left-hand side. Instead of putting it here, I'd put it on the other side, because most of the enemies are in front of you. Most of the action's there at the moment. And also, look, now you're in front of your own ant matrix. So what I would try to do is encourage your soldier to be on the same side of the ant matrix as you, to get the most damage into the other team, while you can do healing from your own position or whatever you choose to be doing, but at least the most people are using your ant matrix as possible. And like right there, see, he puts down his own healing field, his own biotic field to be healing you both. If you are on the side of your ant matrix that you'd rather be on right now, where you're healing and shooting everybody, and your invincibility field or barrier, whatever the hell it's called, is on the same side as you are, then you don't have to worry at all about being healed right now, because you're not going to die, number one. Number two, your soldier is healing you both with his biotic field. And then number three, if that's true, then you both can be putting so much damage in the enemy team right now. And that might really help you to turn this fight in your favor. Get the most out of it. So being distracted by what you're trying to do there, with putting the field down, looking away from the team fight in order to put it there, and in that position. Now, I mean, I understand why you put the invincibility barrier there in the first place, because it does kind of break line of sight from where people were at that moment. Like, there was somebody off to the left, they would have to come out of that doorway to shoot it. The rest of the enemies on the point had their line of sight blocked by this structure in the center of the point. So it was safe for a little bit, but to be honest, you could have gotten more value out of it. And if you trust that you're going to be safe while it's active, then that should give you the feeling that you can just focus what you want to be focusing the fight. And that's the thing. Your focus is kind of in several different places at that moment, and that causes you to lose the opportunity, or to get the maximum value out of your ant matrix when you put it down. Now we're on the defense, and your entire team, well, your front line is basically going to be your Reinhardt, and they're kind of pushed up there. Your Reinhardt's kind of pushed up there. Also, your Reaper's in a weird position. Because your Reinhardt is not going to be able to get to back to your team as easily as he thinks he probably will be able to, and because you are so far away from them, I would recommend being on the low ground here. Just simply because your primary objective is to be healing everybody, and you have your teammates are some of them are so far away from you that it would be very difficult for you to hit them. The farther away you are with Baptiste, the lower the chances are that you're going to be able to hit your healing shot due to the nature of your healing projectile being number one projectile. So it takes time to travel and time to predict where they're going to be. Second, it curves, so it's not a linear projectile, and that makes it even harder to hit what you need to be doing where you intend to be hitting. And so, like, you see how everyone's kind of holding close to choke? I'd be up there to kind of heal them. And then if something goes bad, like if this Reinhardt charges and it doesn't work out the way you hoped or just walks into the enemy team, etc., you still have your invincibility barrier field, etc., to save them. And you might be thinking about doing that because you can turn a bad play into a possible good play, or at least save someone's life and hold this longer if you're there to do it. Now, your chances of healing that Pharah are low, right? You recognize that. It's hard as hell to heal her like that. So I'd use your communication at this moment to help this situation work out a little better. So talk to your Mercy. Mercy, help me heal Pharah. I can't hit her. Or Pharah, fly to low ground. I can heal you there. Or like fall down to the ground. I can heal you. And while you're trying to do this, you're not focusing over here, which is a potential issue for your team.
At least she knows where to help.
See, so your Reinhardt dies during that time. Now, if you were up closer, you could have thrown down your invincibility barrier field, and you could have been healing that guy and possibly helping out that situation. So maybe your Reinhardt wouldn't have died there, or you would have survived a little longer. So what happens? In short, let's summarize what happened here. You're focused on healing the Pharah, which you can't do easily. You're too far away to really help a situation that's potentially an issue, and because you're focused on this Pharah and some other things, you're not able to use your kit to save your Reinhardt, possibly. At this point, we're down in numbers. Right? We've already lost some teammates, and things are looking a little bit. It looks bad for our team. Maybe the other team is about to take this point, and you're on fire from Ashe. So I like your first idea, because she pressured. You didn't see this, but the Ashe pressured our Baptiste down from high ground on the right with their dynamite, so they had to drop low ground. I like your idea of going up here. If you charged that just a little bit longer, you would have made it, I think. So that. First, I want to commend that idea. That's good. Second, okay, so now the enemy team is thinking about pushing in and your team is taking pressure. What I would be thinking about is going towards the back of the point to break line of sight, because there's the area behind you to your left, to the left of where you're standing, where you can kind of, there's a corner you can go around. So as they push in, I'd be thinking about going back in that direction. And right now you are in front of the enemy team where they're shooting. You don't need to be moving forward. You can still heal your team. Right? Because while you're traveling and while you're chasing this dude around, you're sitting in front of their line of sight. They could be shooting you. You're a tasty target. So I would break line of sight. You can't really do anything to be shooting the enemy anyways because they're behind a shield. So the best thing you can do is heal your team up. If you need to be shooting the shield, you can do that without being in line of sight, and then you should be breaking their line of sight by backing up into a better position so you can survive the longest. All right, because now you're super low on health. They're running off to wherever. I don't know why they're running that direction, but the enemy team just pushes in, and then you die immediately. So if you were like this, where the camera is right now, that's perfect. Like, I'd be standing right here this whole time. And then if you need to, all right, that will also give you some other opportunities to be charging up your exo boots. So if they're pushing there, you can just jump up to high ground. You could even just be crouched that whole entire time if you need to be until you see somebody and then jump up there, or if you'd like, because you're able to heal everybody and jump at the same time, you could have jumped up there. You had another chance to jump up there, so that would be a good choice, to be honest. I've chose to focus on this moment because I want to provide you with a little bit more of an advanced concept, I guess, for bronze, but it's something that you can definitely take advantage of. That is the numbers advantage. So let's play this out, and I'll talk about it as it goes ahead. So all 6 members of your team are alive right now. The Baptiste is down. That's probably their main healer. I can't remember who else is healing. So it's 6 versus 5. Their Ashe is down. 6 versus 4.
Wasted.
So your team should probably push in here and try to do something with it, or it's a possibility at least.
Make sure not to do that with mine. Why does he keep doing that?
All right, 6 versus 3. Now you're thinking, I think, about the main tank pushing forward and trying to get aggressive in front of their choke. Right now, that's actually a good idea. I know that you might be concerned about this Junkrat, but that Junkrat's kind of by himself. So if you just go up there with your team, you're going to be number 1, safer. And number 2, if the Junkrat does try to take the point or do anything, or it becomes an issue, it's your whole entire team. 6 people can come back and focus this one Junkrat. So as long as you're not isolated, that's a good thing. All right, 6 versus 2, I guess. This is like Junkrat and maybe somebody else alive, and then they're gonna have respawn soon, but. Alright. Their Orissa's down. The Junkrat's down. These 2 are staggered. You have some people that have respawn, but most likely they're not going to have enough sense to group up. So they might have realized that some people are alive on their team. It's a possibility that they can get up there to help them. And more than likely, those people are coming back from spawn while their teammates are dying. So this is something that you can, especially anywhere below gold, you can take advantage of this. Meaning they're going to start trickling, and just get your all charge off of them, help your team to maintain that numbers advantage, and push this as far as you can, because you can continue to do this until they realize, hey, we need to group up together. And by that time, your team can win with ults. You know, you're all going to have your ults.
Where did that come from?
So they get 1 pick. If you're up there right now, see if your Reinhardt's up there, way up there. And that's not the worst thing, like we've been talking about. I would get up there, throw down your don't die, which is what a friend of mine calls your invincibility barrier, or field, and keep that guy alive. Maybe you can win more, get some more kills. You can definitely keep him from dying, but you don't really want to lose your main tank anyways. If you're up there helping him, he's not feeding as much as it would seem.
There it is.
Right, he does get another kill even, so you could possibly get him out of that situation. All right, and I know that you're about to use your window here, your ant matrix. However, well, we'll let you play it, and then we'll talk about how else you can use it instead. So, see, like, nobody's actually there. Here's how to get the most use out of a lot of ults in Overwatch. Anytime that you have a main choke that the enemy needs to travel through, just let them come all the way through it. Let the tank lines and the supports and everybody walk in front of that choke, because we'll use this map as an example here. If they get out here towards the bridge and everybody's there, they can't just run away and hide. Now, I guess they do on this particular point. They have the left and the right they can go, but it's going to be harder for them. The closer they get to having no walls around them at all, the worse it's going to be. So allow them to go into open space, like right out into the open space where they can't back up easily, because the distances that they need to travel to get to safety are so far that they really can't do anything. That's how you use this ult. So if they were out here in the middle, you can get them, I think. That's enough points covered for one Baptiste video. I'd like to treat this as a general overview of ways to approach playing Baptiste. Let's summarize what we've talked about here today. So, high ground positioning is always good to have when you're Baptiste. It's always to your advantage, or most of the time it is. And because you have your exo boots, you generally can be there. And when you're on high ground, you're safer and it's easier for you to heal your team. Range from your team. So you want to stay close enough to your team so you actually can heal them easily. And that's due to the projectile and non-linear arc of your healing packets. It's harder to shoot and heal people. All right. Uses for your immortality field. So you can cover up major mistakes of your team. And that's a big deal the lower you are. But it applies as you advance through several different ranks, because people are always making mistakes and you can save them, reduce their errors. And that's a big deal. So it's one free get out of jail card for your teammates. You can use Immortality Field to create freedom to do as much damage as possible for a short amount of time. So you basically buy time to just do whatever you want without having to back out. Also, you can save your team from offensive ults, and then finally, you can allow someone on your team to stay in position longer. So, when you have a Winston on your team and he's getting eaten alive when he jumps in, sometimes you can just throw down the Immortality Field and let him hang out for a little while longer before he gets deleted. Or, maybe you're Reinhardt or somebody else on the front line or a sniper that's in a good position, etc. You can make it so they can stay there longer and get greater value out of what they're doing. Next, placement of your Immortality Field. So you want it to be within line of sight of your team, because if the line of sight is blocked, then it won't prevent their death. But you also want it to be outside of line of sight of the other team. So generally behind an object or wall that is close to you, that they can't, and in a way that they can't shoot at it, basically. Okay, for your ant matrix, wait for the entire team to come through the choke before you employ it. So make sure they're in open space. And when you're in a chaotic team fight, take a quick look around and make sure you need to use the ant matrix. Like maybe you don't need it, or finally, you want to make sure that you can set it up in the best position. So you need that information. So always take a look around before you make a decision like that if you can. General Overwatch concepts. These are things that you can apply to your games, whether you're playing Baptiste or not. Numbers advantage. So know when you can push the enemy team and get aggressive due to being up in numbers. And understand when you have the opportunity to do this, like when you want to do this. Try to help your teams. The other thing is try to help your teammates be as successful as possible with whatever they're doing, even if you don't feel like they're making a wise decision. So try to do what you can, especially since Baptiste has this get out of jail free card and all these other things. Try to make it so that your teammates are going to be successful, or cover up their mistakes or whatever. Go in with them. Try to enable them. If you'll win more games that way, for sure. Thanks for watching the video. If you like this video and you want to find other educational videos or content that is similar to this from myself and other people that are at least master's rank in Overwatch, head on over to the subreddit of Overwatch Educators. I'll leave a link in the description below. I'll also leave my socials down below, and if you want to, you can contact me through many of those different forms, or many of those different channels. Also, you can leave a comment here on the video or wherever you find this video, like if you in a subreddit, etc. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. I'm open to doing other VOD reviews. If you have any questions about the video, happy to answer those, etc. So I hope this video was helpful to you, and I wish you all the best of luck in your climb in Overwatch.